Hi there. I know I haven't been around much. I've been working really hard and haven't had time to be on the videos, but this is such an easy recipe that you can do it even when you're working really hard. So I thought it would be a good one. Besides, at this time of year, don't we all need a little bread in our lives? So I'm making focaccia, which is the easiest bread I know of. Here we have 2 cups of flour, and I'm adding to that a little under a teaspoon, of salt. Now, I have been proofing my yeast. So I'm using active dry yeast, and you put it in with lukewarm water. So about 100, 110 degrees. You'll know what lukewarm is when you stick your finger in it. It's not hot, but it's not cold. And a little bit of sugar, because yeast, magic thing that it is, adores sugar. Okay, so we're gonna add this to this. And it's a ton of, the thing that's unique about a focaccia is that it has more water than most of your other bread recipes relative to the, and I'm putting in a little olive oil. It also loves olive oil. Okay, let me just mix this up with a spoon to kind of get all the flour wet. Now, when I'm through with this, I'm going to let it rise partly covered for 2 hours, about. That gives it time to expand a little bit. I know it looks messy, but it will do its thing very nicely, I promise you. So I'm going to let that rise. And then after the 2 hours, you can actually go ahead right away. It's just going to be really sticky. If it's really sticky, you just put a little flour on your hands and grab it. But I prefer to let it sit in the refrigerator for hours and hours, like overnight, in a covered container. Then I get it out. You can see it looks a little less messy than the original because this is, the yeast has had a chance to make the thing rise. Yeast is like this magic substance. I don't know, you probably all know about yeast, but it's not an animal, it's not a plant, but somehow or other, it acts a little bit like both. So like a plant, it takes in oxygen from the water and from the surrounding air. That's why we don't cover it completely when it's rising. And it puts out carbon dioxide, and the carbon dioxide makes the bubbles in the bread and makes it rise. So this is and it's kind of a messy, this is one of your messier things, but it's so delicious. Hang on. Now, I have generously oiled, again, olive oil, my cast iron skillet. If you don't have a cast iron skillet, well, if you don't have a cast iron skillet, you should probably go buy one. But if you don't have the time or the money to buy one, you may use like a round cake pan. It just won't be quite as good because the cast iron does this wonderful thing where it keeps the heat and radiates it into the bread. Okay, so we just spread this out a little bit in our skillet. Now, because this is February, I'm going to attempt to make it into a heart shape. But to tell you the truth, it probably will have its own opinion about that and may not look at all like a heart when it comes out of the oven. Okay, I'm turning it over. I did the first side, which got a little bit of, I know it looks messy, but it's good. Okay. Now, if we needed it, we would put a little more oil on that, but that looks pretty oily to me, maybe just a tiny bit. Then your focaccia can have all sorts of things on top of it. Some people like to brush melted garlic butter. Some people like feta cheese. Some people like little tiny vegetables. I personally think that focaccia is perfect with rosemary. This is fresh rosemary, not from my garden because we don't have much garden right now, but from the store. And I'm just spreading it around my little heart. There we go. We're getting there, I promise. There, almost there. I wish you can't, of course, smell it, but it smells gorgeous and You know, there's something just fabulous about rosemary. There, one more, I think. So it's just to taste. And then, because we have to have a little cheese in our life. Now, I bought the cheddar that is, whoops, we don't want you on the pan melting. Thank you very much. I bought the cheddar that's orange just because it's such a pretty color. And it will perk up our lives when it comes out of the oven and bakes. I am preheating my oven to 400 degrees. Okay, now, one more thing, just a little more there. You really want to kind of push these guys in, because otherwise they can actually fall off the bread when it comes out of the oven. But if you make little holes and push them in, you're good. Okay, this is going to go in the oven, and I will be back when it's done. So here is my focaccia, fresh out of the oven. I'm not going to touch it yet because the pan is really hot. But as you can see, it's got a tiny bit of brown. I don't need it to have a whole amount of brown. When you touch it, it's firm. That's important. And I will let it cool on a wire rack for just a little while after I take it. So I leave it in the pan for maybe a minute, move it to the rack for a few minutes, and then we dig in. So enjoy your focaccia. Wasn't that easy?